This is E Hobbs, aka Art of War, Saturday, September 9th, 9:52 a.m. Man, pretty gnarly day yesterday in regards to AXLA. Some days be like that. That's the best way to put it, man, because, um, for me to trade this stock multiple times, have initial thesis, have to flip that, cut the trade, move on, be patient, wait, only to get in the day and really get the best move of all in the shortest amount of time. It doesn't happen overnight. And when you talk about reflecting and just thinking about, a couple years back where I would go into a weekend, disappointed, couldn't trade anymore. Either I blew up an account or I didn't have the conviction or the confidence. I didn't believe it that the trade would go my way. Didn't necessarily know how to short it, didn't know how to go long. But just over time, as you continually develop a skill set, it really is something that you can use and at your disposal at any given time. And so I would highly recommend, after watching this trade review, if you're going to watch this one first, go back and watch AXLA, my live trade on it, in which I talked through a lot of different things. But I think the most important thing out of it all is that you get to see and experience and hear the real time emotion of me being surprised, expecting something to happen when it doesn't happen. But then, okay, how do you react off of that? And I know a lot of you guys struggle with, paralysis. You get into a certain thing and you're just not able to maneuver or to do what you need to do to get out of a trade, right? And so you hear me talk through all those things, and just the maturation or the evolution of having a plan, again, adapting that plan, and then executing as need be. And so I didn't get the live trade of the short at the end of the day, just because I was moving around, and I got in and I was really locked in. I wasn't really even thinking about it, but nevertheless, these are what the gains I ended up with. So this is realized profit. However, there were a lot of commissions within this, and again, I promised myself I wouldn't get into that, but I used this trade as really, really good practice. This was my only trade with Cobra. I longed it over here once I realized what was going on with E-Trade because of the commissions and less of. But man, they just kill you with the commission. So I ended up netting out, right around $130 or something like that. But, again, it's really not about the profits. Really at all. Don't get me wrong. I like making money, but when you're effective with the trade and you know what you're doing, it really is a great feeling, man. And I'll show you what this chart looks like for my executions. And again, from what I was joking around with yesterday, it felt like a Frank Dukes match out of Bloodsport. If you ever seen that, where man, you're just like holding on for dear life and like just trying to make it happen, but you're glorious at the end because of all your training and everything you've been able to hone in on with your skill sets and the work that you put in. So let's get right into it. I couldn't show my profits with E-Trade because I forgot to take a screenshot yesterday, and it actually resets itself every morning or 12 a.m. or sometime around there. So it actually was wash sales. I had a AAOI trade, if you listen to the last trade review, in which I thought it was funny. I didn't like the price action pre-market. It wasn't dropping or anything like that. And so I ended up getting out of it for like $5 gain or $6 gain. I don't know, whatever. But because of a previous loss within the last 30 days, I probably have it in a trade review I talked through. It washes it out and it doesn't show, the actual profit for today. It shows only the net. And so it made it look like I lost $500 that day, but I didn't. And so when I took the AXLA trade, again, I talked through this at the end of my live trade that I've posted. I talk about the gains that I made, but it only shows minus the 500. So it still ends up like, I think it was like $300 or something like that. But I made like 250 or something. I can't remember, right? Neither here nor there. It was one of those things to where I recognized the price action and I adapted. So let's just talk through it. So this was the trade that I was referencing. And when you look at this looks nuts. So This is a first red day of how I see it. AXLA. So when you look at this on the daily chart, we're talking about it's ran up or gapped up from 10 cent area to 30. It comes down. First green day here, boom, it fails again, and then it has a bounce. And so anytime I see bounces, I'm thinking like, okay, it's the bounces are typically weaker and weaker, but this one was actually stronger. And so you have this kind of bear flag overall with the this bull flag down trend here, right? And so it breaks through that, and I'm not expecting a whole lot, but for it to have a third red day, third green day at this magnitude, just wasn't expecting it, but you know, it happens, right? And so if you look at this chart overall, I mean, you're not really seeing a lot of volume and price action like this within the last year. So the conviction of a first red day, I expected this to have some sort of spike, but I'm typically not buying um, on a third green day just because of the exhaustion. And again, it's coming from a bounce. And so when this was pre-market, I actually looked to long this because I saw how it was holding up. So you had the 1, 2, 3, 4, and then when it broke over this area, I'm like, okay, cool. This is, you know, we're probably going to get a nice spike going into the morning, and then I can sell because again, I don't put too much conviction into this following through because of the third green day. But it actually fails prior to doing that, and like I said, it tried to settle over this support. I bought it right in here in this area, at the 66 area. So right through here, right through here, and basing it off of this previous high a day, where now resistance is support. But it started to break down, and as I recognized that, I got out pretty quickly for like $80 loss, 5,000 shares, not a lot. But then, it comes down and then it spikes up, and I'm like, okay, now it's time for the short because again, I'm using this resistance. And boom, I'm accurate. So I actually short this a little bit late in the game because of I got in right at the open, closer to 61, 60, the whole number. And it's still green on the day, mind you, because again, it finished down here. And so I'm like, okay, this is going to shoot down. And like the range is fairly decent. You have 40 cents where the run up came from. Worst case scenario, or here, half dollar, 48 cents, and I'm thinking, perfect. But it holds up, and when I say half dollar, I'm thinking like it'll bounce there, but it'll definitely shoot down, and you might get more out of it. But this holds up, and you hear me react on the screen on the live trade like, oh wow, like this was very surprising that it not only held up, but it came back strong, very strong. And so when it bounced here, I actually shorted it and added to my position in 10,000 shares. Again, lightweight, just because of the commissions and everything else I was trying to keep effective. And then all of a sudden, this is where it takes off. And when it holds right here, this is where I flip the script and I'm out because something's not right. And that's the thing I would say, when in doubt, get out. We'll figure everything else out later, but protect the money. Protect. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to students, and sometimes even myself earlier on, where you just lock up and you don't know what to do, or you start that hope and stuff, right? You can always get back in, but what you can't do is get back in if you don't have the money. And so protect the money at all times. So of course it does this, and then immediately when I start to recognize this price action, I let it settle in. I don't try to flip, and that's the thing. Sometimes you have to take a breather and a pause. Like, okay, what just happened, and resettle, right? You just can't get back into the holster, because that's when you typically end up losing even more money because you were wrong about it. You want the stock to still prove itself. So it's a condensed timeline. It's very short, but it's really elongated because you want to take that breath and say, okay, is this really what I'm seeing, or is it, just a false read, right? So as I'm going through it, Excuse me, 1 second. Excuse me. So as I'm going through it, really quick, I see like, okay, this is the opportunity. And so I give it 1 5 minute candle. It pulls back to that 65 level again. And again, I'm reading it off of here. I'm just using technical support and just understanding time of day and volatility. Typically, your technical reads, if you're charting right, are going to read best at the most volatile periods because other traders are looking at the same thing and seeing it as such. And so when you get later into the day, false reads, slowly breaks down, slowly breaks up, whatever it is, right? That's a little bit tougher to do unless there's consolidation out of it. So when you're playing these pullbacks and these rejects, those technical key levels, half dollars, whole numbers, are going to work in your favor. So I take a position long and then I let it ride and then boom, we get it right and it pushes through. And just like I expected, I'm selling right in these 70s. Why? Because of this right here. And I'm thinking like, okay, this is it. This is the push that I was looking for when I entered initially, but it just kept consolidating. It kept consolidating. So I did some due diligence and research, and then even more so, with my guy Reverse Long putting information out there, which I saw it as well, but didn't really think it would hold up again for the third green day. But the IO, the institutional ownership, over 60%, 67%, I believe. And so they're just holding this stock up. And so now I'm saying to myself, it's like, okay, you definitely can't be shorting this because you're getting into the midday. But then also, just understand that this needs extension. So I allow it to extend itself. It starts to struggle here. And so I say, okay, got the 89, got a good high again. Let's try to short around it. It barely breaks the high initially. And so I'm shorting again right through here. And boom, it takes off again. And so I'm like, all right, I'm looking up now. Commissions is getting up there, $150, $200, what have you. So I'm like, let's just let this thing ride out. And this is the difference between what I did. The difference between this and Verb is that I tried to fight Verb on the way up and add in. That's not my style. You have to be able to know and recognize what you're comfortable with. I let this play out. And once it got over $1, I started to short literally right through here. And when I shorted right through here, I said, okay, worst case scenario, it goes to 120 or extends a little bit further. But based off the price action, boom, we get it. We add a little bit, it rejects, and then we start to take profit, right? And so I do this a couple different times, and I was going back and forth with it, and this is what that chart looks like. Crazy up here, very crazy. I mean, you just see just all this fighting right through here, right? Oh, this is the reversal, me, shorting it again, covering, and then boom, we're fighting this thing up here. And man, like, I love it. I love this, man. Like, yes, money's on the line and you don't want to lose it, but I love it. And because when you're right, man. And, profit again is one thing, but when you're right, you're right. And so I hit it, one good time. And I said, man, I've seen this too many times. I've been on the other side of these trades when after hours, they just fall apart. And I said, this is one of those days, man. Like, and the conviction was that third green day. Like, there's no way in the world that they're going to keep running this. Maybe a first day, maybe a second day, but you're talking about coming out of a bounce, a third green day, and you've gotten it up to $1. Like, why wouldn't you take profit? Why wouldn't, you move on, in institutional ownership or not? So, yeah, there's always inherent risk, but I was right. And so I'm short this thing going into the after hours right at 96, right at 96, 96.5. And, I had 5,000 shares. I hedged my bet, said, you know what, if 5,000 shares is plenty, if I think if I'm right, because it's going to not only recoup the, $200, $300 that I initially lost, but it's going to get that and even more. And boom, we just get that hard sell off, right? And that first red day. So the first red day happens after hours. So I don't know if this thing gaps down tomorrow. On Monday, maybe it spikes up. I won't be a part of it. I know that. Unless it's like early in the morning that it spikes and it comes back down. But you just never know. You never know, what's going to happen. But I end up locking in roughly, like I said, you saw it, the 500 overall. 800 because I recouped the losses with that, and then had profit. But then, the net with the commissions was as such. And so once I got to the whole number, I figured that it was going to be a struggle here. I held the entire position, but then once I got to that whole number of 80, I was like, okay, there's plenty, because now you have the 200 MA right here, and you just don't want to get greedy. I always say, and I got this from one of my mentors or colleagues slash mentor. Don't be a dick for a tick. Once you get, good size profit, take it and move on and learn from it. So, yeah, hopefully I explained everything okay. Literally, this was the trade that I was focused on. AAOI, not even worth your time to talk through. Go look at the other trade review if you want to. But this right here was a beautiful thing, guys. And so hopefully, you get a lot of value out of this. I, again, recommend that you watch the live trade and then listen to how I talk through this, because there's a lot of valuable information in it. Ask questions, leave comments. Yeah, let's just keep rolling, man. Good stuff.